When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
About the past and about the future.
Welcome back to Draftvice. My name is Walter, and yes, we're back with Harry Van Ness.
Hello.
And on today's episode, if you can't tell from the lovely jersey that Harry is wearing, we are talking about the New York Jets. Yes, I'm still very salty about that, even though they've never been called the Jersey Jets.
I'm really excited to talk about the New York Jets.
Yes. Yes, we're talking about the New York Jets today, folks, and that's why I had to have Harry on. We have so many Jets fans that are friends of the show. We had to start talking about them relatively early on. I've crunched the tape with Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. I've watched a lot of these players, and then also Harry is a fan of the team, and that's why we always have him on as a contributor, and he just likes being on this show. And if you watch any of the Jets episodes, you know that's when he sparks up. He's like, let's get down to it. And then the Jets also took some players that he really likes.
They did.
Really, that's really speak to Harry's heart. Right off the bat, if you want, you can follow the show at Draftvice on Twitter, at Draftvice_football on Instagram. You can follow me at BROJO. Death is in the end of laugh. Punch, a delicious drink you drink in the summer. And you can follow Harry at
Harry Van Ness on Instagram.
And if you want to follow, subscribe, go ahead and do that. There's a whole bunch of other episodes and shows in the bottom, in the show notes. I'm on Face Off of Face Mirror every Thursday, 6 to 7 as well. All those things in the show notes, other videos as well. And now let's talk about the Jets, right?
Let's do it, yes.
All right. So number 2 overall, Jets are sitting on the clock. They take Zach Wilson. Are you excited?
I am. I think it was like...
you sound excited. Well, this is just how Harry's excitement is. This is actually how Harry orgasms.
Yeah. You got the Mormon quarterback.
There you go.
Nah, but I like what we're doing here because I think right off the bat we've already given more help to Zach Wilson than we did 3 years with Sam Darnold. So I think he's off to a much better start. And it obviously helps when Adam Gase is not your head coach.
Yes. Yeah. I think this is going to be I think we might have talked a little bit about Robert Saleh, but right off the bat, what do you feel about Robert Saleh?
Well, I think somebody mentioned this before that he's doing a good job of easing Zach Wilson into the spotlight in New York. He's trying to expose him to the press that much because obviously New York is a very hard place to succeed. And Zach Wilson's coming from freaking Utah, and Robert Saleh, he's just doing his best to ease his quarterback into it. It's we're going to talk more about what he did with the draft, but looks like Saleh's doing everything he can to make sure that his young quarterback comes to New York to succeed. And
I agree. I think Saleh's scheme is perfect. I think bringing in LaFleur and the offensive line coach from the 49ers, I think that was a key part of this whole plan. There's quite a bit of what Zach Wilson did at BYU that will translate for the 49ers system. Where a lot of the play action, the outside zone. I know they liked his feel for so the things that I liked and the things that they liked were very similar, right? Robert Saleh mentioned right off the bat, he's got great arm strength. He can make plays off script. When things break down, and that's what people want in a quarterback. They don't just want a guy who's Jared Goff is gonna, if everything's going right, get him in the rhythm, getting going. Yeah, there's plenty of top 15, 20 quarterbacks, right, that you can find out there. You can get on a good rhythm, and they can win you a few games if you have an expert offensive coordinator. But when shit breaks down, you need a guy who can go ahead and fix a bad play, right? And I think that's what they believe Zach Wilson can do.
Yes.
He's got great pocket presence. I think that was the thing that a lot of teams really liked about him, right? The ability to go ahead and have a good feel for when your pocket's breaking down. When Peyton Turner's bull rushing and knocking Brady Christensen back into the pocket. Brady Christensen was his left tackle at BYU. Peyton Turner, defensive end, the Saints took him at first round, so there you go. He felt that, and he was able to maneuver and be like, "Oh, you're coming this way. I'm going to come this way. I'm going to move off script. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the ball. I'm going to throw it and get it to my guy." So, like you said, they're building this team around Zach Wilson. I know you were not necessarily initially a huge fan of Zach Wilson early on, but at least what we know is they are going to give him every chance to succeed or fail. My one question is they haven't signed a veteran backup, which I feel like would be a good contributor to this team. A Brian Hoyer, somebody who doesn't have to start, but just kind of get you up to date on the playbook.
Case Keenum type player.
Yeah, what the Browns have with Case Keenum. Some of the other teams that do
Basically, wherever Ryan Fitzpatrick is, what Ryan Fitzpatrick type.
Yeah, basically Ryan Fitzpatrick. There you go. They need a guy in there that maybe can go ahead, who knows the scheme. Maybe they go after Nick Mullins or C.J. Beathard, guys who have been in the league for at least a few years. I feel like I would go after Brian Hoyer myself because I feel like that's an older guy who's going to come cheap, who's been in the system. And you're really not planning on starting him. He's got good He's got good mobility too. He
can make plays with his legs.
My one issue with him is, and this is an issue that came out from back when from the day I started watching him in college, is he invites contact. He will run into dudes.
Yeah.
He thinks he is Josh Allen minus like 20 to 30 pounds of Josh Allen, and he will run right into a linebacker, kind of like Johnny Manziel used to do as well. And in fact, I feel like his ability to make plays off script, he's not going to be stymied with if you have to take away that running ability, because that wasn't the only thing he did. He just has to be careful with inviting contact.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're already on to the hot start. So I guess we have to get to the next pick, right? And then we'll bounce around a few of the other players. Alijah Vera-Tucker, they traded up to get him. They traded 66, and they traded a later third-round pick, and they got back a fourth-rounder, a later fourth-round pick. But without talking about the trade right off the bat, let's talk Alijah Vera-Tucker, then we'll talk a little bit about the trade. How do you feel about the Alijah Vera-Tucker pick?
It's another pick I'm a big fan of. When you have an extra first-round pick and you don't know what to do with it, always go offensive line.
There you go.
I know I keep saying that. I think there are a lot of reasons Sam Darnold did not succeed in New York, but I believe the biggest reason is because guy was running for his life every play. What we do with the third over pick last year, we draft Mekhi Becton, who was probably our best player last year. So we got another. It's like we already took our quarterback. Might as well help him succeed. Get him a good guard.
I agree. I like the player, right? So not getting into the whole, we'll talk a little bit about the trade issue that I have a problem with. But the player himself is amazing. And they had him rated as a top 10 pick. Joe Douglas said, listen, we said he's a top 10 pick. If one of our guys in the top 10 fall out of the top 10, we're going to go up and get him. It's not necessarily how I would play the draft. But the player is great. Perfect for an outside zone scheme. He could also play tackle for you if somebody goes down. My question is whether they're going to play him at left guard, because he's played mostly on the left side, played left guard, left tackle at USC. Or could they switch him to the right guard spot? Because, again, you're going to get, right guard is the more valuable guard spot, typically, because that's where your quarterback, if you're a right-handed quarterback, that's where your vision is. So I don't know what I don't know if they've announced yet if they're going to stick him on right side or left side. Most likely he's going to be the guard there. And if you feel good about Becton, then maybe you want to stick him at right guard to help Fant, and McGovern's an okay for them. But again, they've really built up this offensive line. They're really building around Zach Wilson. Or as you put it with him
as alt-right Sam Darnold or Mormon Sam Darnold.
Yes, alt-right Mormon Sam Darnold. There we go. I thought that was like the best line I heard all year.
I wish I made that up, but I did not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Barry McCockiner did best troll on Twitter.
Yeah, he's about like 6'2", so yeah, he's not the biggest dude. But Alijah Vera-Tucker's pretty damn big. Not long arms, so I think that's why he got pushed into the guard spot, and people really like him for guard. And again, they have I personally think that there weren't a bunch of outside zone guards in this draft, but there were quite a few. That might be where my opinion of it changes with the trade up, because Spotrac did a study. They looked at all the contracts, and they said that 66 overall pick's what really kind of makes me question that deal, right?
Yeah.
That's a borderline second round pick. That is another starter on your team. That's another corner. If you wanted to go straight offensive line, you could have taken Tevin Jenkins at 23, or Alijah Vera-Tucker might have even fallen to you at 23 because he's a guard, and you don't know how other teams are going to value guards. So he might have fallen far enough that you could have taken him there. Wyatt Davis went in the third round. Actually, with the pick the Vikings took Wyatt Davis with was the pick that the Jets traded to them. So I like Alijah Vera-Tucker, but you could have had 3 offensive linemen for the price of 1, and they didn't all have to start right away. You could have gotten Quinn Miners, Wyatt Davis, and Tevin Jenkins for the same price that you spent getting Alijah Vera-Tucker. Now, in the long run, it might work out because you say, listen, we think this guy is a top-end elite Quentin Nelson, Zach Martin level guard, and we think that he is just that good. We wanted to make sure we got one of our guys in there. And again, they could have also taken Trey Smith later on in the draft, who went like 233 or something. Yeah. He went really late. I like what they did. I like what they've been doing, building up the depth around this O-line room. I do question the trade up, but that's about it. Other than that, the player himself is great. He's going to have to play like a $15 million a year guard, though, for that trade up to really be worth it. So that's the one question that I have with that. Let's talk to the next player, right? Because I know this is a guy who speaks very close to your heart.
Yes.
As a Jets fan and as
an Ole Miss fan.
Yeah, he's wearing both hats today, folks. Yeah. Well, hat and jersey. So, yes, let's talk about Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore. Guy, he's unbelievable player. He made Matt Corral look good. Like, Matt Corral's not really a great quarterback, but he made him and Kenny Yeboah, tight end, who also was signed by the Jets, made Matt Corral look like a top 10 quarterback in college. And Elijah Moore, he's not really great on the outside, but he's great in the slot, and he's great just going straight down the middle of the field. A lot of people compared him to Tyreek Hill, and I know I've had some criticisms of Elijah Moore because of one play I've mentioned on this show more than once. It was at the Egg Bowl a couple years ago, which for you don't know, it's like the rivalry game between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Elijah Moore clutch scores a game-tying touchdown, but then he does a celebration. I've seen DK Metcalf did the year before and was not penalized for it. I've seen Odell Beckham do it in the NFL, but anyway, he gets on, he like squats like a dog and pretends to pee on the football, causes the extra point to move back, and that prevents the game from going into overtime. But other than that, perfect steal. He was a first-round level talent, but I'm happy that the Giants were stupid and took Kadarius Toney instead, because now we got him. Now Zach Wilson's gonna have his guy to throw to, and that's gonna be a dynamic duo for years to come. And
I think he was the fourth best receiver in this draft class. We did the wide receiver episode. We had somebody else on, and we went through his ranks, and he had him more in the tier 2 territory. Elijah Moore is just really good, right? He's got that deep speed. He's got contested catch ability. He didn't play on the outside. You're right, but I actually do wonder if they can maybe get him on the outside, because again, he doesn't have to be split end. You can probably get him in at flanker, which is the guy who's playing on the outside who's not playing on the line of scrimmage. Because again, they have Corey Davis, they have Denzel Mims, so both those guys could probably play the X receiver, the split end, the guy in the line of scrimmage. They don't have tight end. They don't have a lot of tight end depth there. So
we have Kenny Yeboah now. So
they do have Kenny Yeboah, UDFA, which I do think was a good pickup.
Yeah.
I think he is going to be a dynamic athlete, like a combination of Deebo Samuel and Brandin Cooks. I like this player a lot. He was one of my favorite players in this draft class. I think he's dynamic. He's great run after the catch ability. He's good down the field. I like him as a top 40 pick. I think that was like at 34 overall, very good. I don't think the difference between him, I know Jalen Samuels was a breakout, candidate, went top 10. I think the discount from Jalen Samuels to Elijah Moore wasn't that much. So yes, it was a little bit, but I still think what you're getting with him as a player. Now, you're right. They are building around Zach Wilson. One of my favorite prospects. I think they're going to utilize him in a lot of different ways. Again, like we've seen Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, guys who really didn't see a lot of press coverage or playing on the outside. By the way, Elijah Moore did do a little bit of press coverage out of the slot.
Yeah.
So, because he went up against J.C. Horn, who all he does is press. And he beat his booty. He just smoked
his ass.
He smoked everybody. Like, listen, Elijah Moore, he's the new Smokey, right? He's the new flaming. I like him, man. He's one of my favorite players. I'm glad the Jets got him if the Browns couldn't.
We got him.
All right, let's stop our bro-y love for Ole Miss wide receivers, because it does seem like every other year there's one of them that just like erupts.
Well, they did the same mistake 2 years ago. They waited till second round to let the Ole Miss guys go. And who are those guys? Who are those two receivers that they slept on?
Is it DK Brown and AJ Metcalf?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, God damn.
I wonder what happened to them.
You never hear about them no more. Yeah. Anyway, yes, I really did like that part of their draft. I thought it was very good. Let's go to their next pick, right? They didn't have a pick in the 3rd round because of a particular trade we've already discussed.
Yes.
But they have a 4th round pick, a high 4th round
Yes.
pick. Michael Carter.
Running
Running back. Yes, steal. That's his position, stealer. He's a steal. That's what he plays steal on the offense. He's very good. Running back out of North Carolina. I always say NC, and I go it's at NC State. North Carolina, Javonte Williams, backfield buddy, hangs out with Diami Brown as well. But he might again. This guy is very versatile. Quick thoughts on him.
From the tape I've watched, I love he's got really great breakout speed, and that's and a lot of great runbacks come like in the 3rd round, 4th round, and I think he has potential to be a really breakout candidate.
He reminds me a lot of not AJ Brown, guy on Aaron Jones kind of style player. Yeah. I think he's perfect for that offense, right? Yeah. They're going to use him in outside zone. He was more of a pass catcher of the 2 running backs. I think that versatility to be a 3-down, 4-down back, can be very good for them. I like him a lot. They like him a lot. They were like, dude, we can't believe this guy's here.
Yeah.
And to get Michael Carter in the 4th round when teams were trading up to get Javonte Williams, like Denver Broncos traded up to get Javonte Williams at the top of the 2nd. I don't think the differential was 2 rounds difference between those 2 players.
Yeah.
So you got a guy who might be a 3-down player for you, and he went 4th round. That's a starter. He might be starting for you guys. He's better than Tevin Coleman already out of the book, I think. Yeah. I could be wrong. I actually kind of liked him better than Travis Etienne, depending on how you want to utilize him. I know Etienne's probably the more explosive player, but he's got some Alvin Kamara, Kareem Huntness to him. Very good contact balance, very good hands. I think he could be a star, man. Yeah. I think it's a very good pickup by them. I know they liked him a lot. I know they were excited to get him, and they continue to build around Zach Wilson. Yeah. Right? Get a pass-catching running back, get an elite, athletic, versatile wide receiver, get a great guard who you're going to stick up and build the Great Wall of the Jets, the Great Wall of New York, right down in the Meadowlands.
Wall of East Rutherford.
Yes, Great Wall of East Rutherford, where they play in New Jersey. We're going to block out all the New Jersey people with our new offensive line. I did want them to get, I've been saying this so much, I wanted them to get Ben Cleveland and Deontay Brown out of Alabama.
The Cleveland Brown New York Jets.
Well, what I really wanted them to do is get Ben Cleveland, who again is gigantic out of Georgia guard, and get Brown out of Alabama, and those are 2 of the heaviest dudes in the draft. They would have had 3 offensive linemen weighing in at over 350. Yeah, that would have been heavy as shit. Now it probably wouldn't have been great for how they wanted to run because I think they were looking more for an outside zone scheme, but it just would have been fun. It just would have been heavy. Very heavy. Yeah, they could have went more power, more gap. But you know what? I dig it. Any more thoughts on our buddy Michael Carter?
No, we also drafted a cornerback named Michael Carter.
Yes, they did. They drafted cornerback Michael Carter. Might be a little bit of a safety from what I've heard. They might be doing a little bit of safety work with him. More of a free safety roller. They also took Jamien Sherwood and Hamsah Nasirildeen out of Sherwood. I think is out of Auburn, and I know Nasirildeen out of Florida State. It doesn't feel like anybody from Florida State did really well this year. It feels like anybody who wasn't Asante Samuel Jr. just was like everybody was kind of a little nervous because that coaching staff was a little janky. Yeah. But I actually like Nasirildeen. Now he's coming off an injury. I think that's probably why he fell. They actually might be cross-training him and maybe utilizing him more as a linebacker. Yeah. Very similar to Jaquiski Tart, who Saleh had when he was with the 49ers. Yeah. So I dig that pick. I think he's going to be versatile for them. Quasi-linebacker hybrid. I loved watching the interview with Saleh. Yeah. Because he's talking about how you can convert these box safeties. And he's actually like, listen, the difference between a box safety and a linebacker ain't that much. And if you really want to go ahead and get them, like, he learned some things from John Lynch from being in San Francisco. He's like, listen, what I learned from John Lynch is just have him creep up into the box a little bit more and just be like, listen, you guys, get them comfortable at being near the line of scrimmage. And they can get them utilized quite a bit like that. I think this is the way the NFL's going.
Yeah.
quasi safety linebacker hybrids.
Like what you see with Jamal Adams when he was here and is over in Seattle right now.
Yeah, and you got 2 first-round picks for him.
Yes, we
One of
did.
those became Alijah Vera-Tucker.
It did.
So at least that's the other benefit, though. The Jets still have an extra first-rounder next year, so they're going to keep building this team. They got an extra second-rounder next year because of the Sam Darnold trade. Just building up this team, just to be. I don't think they are going to be a playoff team this year.
No, not at all. Because the Bills obviously last year, Dolphins won 10 games. People forget that they won 10, and obviously you cannot count out Billy Belichick and the Pats. So that's
and we're gonna go a little bit over the roster in a little bit. But I still like so much of what they've done in this draft.
probably my favorite Jets draft ever since I've been a fan. So which ain't saying much, but still is.
Well, they
very good
drafted an
draft.
Ole Miss player. It already is your favorite
Exactly.
draft class.
But even if you forget about Elijah Moore and Kenny Yeboah, is still. There's a clear vision here.
Like I said this before, this is maybe a draft class where outside of the trade up, everything was right.
Yeah.
They did everything right. Are there any other players I really wanted to talk about? The only other thing I had on my notes was the learning curve for box safety to linebacker. There can be Saleh talked about this, like that there is a learning curve, but it's not bad. Like it depends on the player, and there's ways that you can work around that. There's not a lot of, let's see. The only real difference is that you're not, pumping the guard like you're typically doing at Mike linebacker. And then the only other thing that I really had, 2 other things. One, they mentioned a lot about the satellite physicals. They had a hard time getting a lot of the medicals in. That was typical for this draft class, but I felt like it was a good thing because Joe Douglas specifically mentioned this in his presser. Outside of that, the only thing I really had a problem with was the reporters in New York were interrupting Saleh a lot.
Yeah.
Like he would do his presser, and it felt like he would get like 3/4 of the way through what his statement was to responding to a question, and a reporter would interrupt him, and it's like, dude, like I never seen that before. Yeah. I didn't see them doing that with Joe Douglas either. It was just like, do you guys think you can talk over him now? Because like he's the head coach, he's just a nice guy, but like I just thought that was I thought that was very rude.
Yeah. They're probably still accustomed to having an absolute moron in New York. They're probably not used to having an actual competent coach with the Jets. So that's
what I felt was very sweet though was like Saleh was talking about his first day of coaching as the head coach, like when they had the OTAs, and he's like, oh, like I'm waiting for we get done with practice, we're all going to meet up around the head coach, and I'm standing my normal spine. It's like, oh shit, I'm the head coach now.
Yeah, which
is such I could totally relate to that, where it's like all of a sudden you're like in that different position. I remember it's just like one of those things like, oh fuck, like I'm that now. God damn. All right, time to go ahead and lead the team. Overall, love the draft, man.
Yeah.
It was after a solid offseason where they got Corey Davis, they spruced up the D-line a little bit. I think they could have addressed D-line a little bit more in this draft, but I didn't hate any of the picks that they made. I feel like they could have went edge rusher at some point, but there's not a pick that I would like. Again, maybe to me that those 2 third-round picks change it up a lot, especially because I think they trade out that other 4th rounder they got from the Vikings, and that might have led to them being able to get some of the guys later on in the draft. But overall, like, there's no individual pick where I went, this was bad, this was wrong, this they shouldn't have done, right? Like, it was a lot of good players. It was that one thing about the trades, the only thing I would dock them for. But I think that's a big deal. I do think, because think about it, they still need corners. Look at the corner depth on this class, right? Yeah. The corners are Bryce Hall, Bless Austin, Corey Ballantyne, Michael Carter, and Michael Carter might be playing safety for them. Brandin Echols, Jason Pinnock.
Yeah.
The corner room's not great. Now, they might address it a little bit in free agency. There's guys who are out there. Steven Nelson, formerly of the Steelers, he's still available. Hayward just signed with the Raiders to join up with Gus Bradley's crew, so I think he's now off the table. There's guys who are out there, Gary and Conley. I thought they were maybe they'll go after Richard Sherman, although there's now been talk that he might go back to
49ers.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Maybe he wants to join up with Saleh, be in New York. Get to enjoy New York City, get to go ahead and ride it up and be like, yo, I got my new boy Zach Wilson, my boy Quinnen Williams.
It's like he'd also be playing the stadium he won his Super Bowl at.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice memories of being there. All that time in New York. And listen, there's always that song. Welcome to New York, concrete jungle where dreams are made of. Here in East Rutherford. We didn't practice this at all. We also
singing from the heart.
By the way, this is what you got to come out to karaoke with Harry and Walter on on Wednesdays.
On Draftvice.
Yeah, on Draftvice. We're gonna start doing this. Should we do it on TikToks? We'll do it on Twitch. We'll do karaoke with Harry and Walter on Twitch. We'll also do it at the Spot up in New York again.
Do it.
Yo, he actually would probably be down for that. That was a fun night.
It was
very, very. I'm glad everything came out well on that, and I hope you all tuned in because Harry was very enthused with the draft that whole night. Yeah. We had a great panel. I think it was a great show. Again, that's really my only gripe though is the trade, and then when you look at the roster, again. But when you look at the offense, and they clearly decide, I feel like they're doing a lot what the Browns did last year, right? Browns said, year one, we're looking at offense. We're going to build up around the offense. Year two, we'll do it with the defense. And I think they're doing the same thing, especially because I think Saleh thinks like with his coaching staff, they could maybe get more out of the defense. They'll play a lot of more cover 4 shells, cover 2, cover 4. They'll kind of, they'll try to slow down they'll try to slow down some of the offensive attacks and maybe just try to hope that the 4 up front get there. I still would like to maybe see them go after an edge rusher, but when you look at the guys who they took, I think they have a very good room. They signed Jared Davis. They're getting C.J. Mosley back. Carl Lawson, Quinnen Williams, Vinny Curry, Sheldon Rankins. You look at the D-line. That D-line's stacked.
Yeah.
Edge rusher might be the only other spot where they kind of maybe still should have addressed something there, but I don't look at any part of that team and I go, all right, like other than corner feels like there's a massive, like there's something missing, and maybe they have a plan there, and they probably do. Or their plan is, listen, get the offense working. We'll save some of this money for next year. When we get to next year, we'll go ahead and deal with it then. Outside of that, Jared Davis, I think, was an interesting, like, kind of high upside signing. And going through the roster, again, now you look at this offensive line, right? They got Fant, Greg Roten, Alijah Vera-Tucker, Connor McGovern, Mekhi Becton. They still have Chuma Edoga, who they drafted a couple of years ago out of USC. He's, Alex Lewis is still on the roster. I thought they got rid of him. At least they signed Dan Feeney. I don't think that's really all that impressive. Dan Feeney, no relation to Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World, but still.
God rest his saintly brow.
He's still alive, I thought.
He is, but this may be played at a later date. He could die in the next few days. I want to be ahead of the curve.
Dear God.
Like, the guy's probably like 90, so it's not that far off.
He's always looked old too, so it's kind of. I think he came out with gray hair when he was just born. Just like, you got a gray-haired baby with a mustache. It's kind of weird. Lawson, Rankins, Williams, Curry, Cashman. I want to see some. I think Cashman can have some development there. I kind of like the safety room. It's deep. Marcus May, LaMarcus Joyner, Ashton Davis, who they drafted last year. Hamsah Nasirildeen, kind of talked about him more as a quasi-linebacker dude. Same thing with Sherwood. Corner, I think they still have Lamar Jackson there. I think Lamar Jackson fits kind of what their scheme would be looking for at outside corner, so I kind of think he might be one of the starters there. And Bryce Hall, I thought Bryce Hall was more of a slot guy, to be honest. But overall, I like what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's a build. It's going to be a burn. They're going to get their guys used to the offense, and they'll kind of start developing the defense more and more as they go along. Yes, I think they'll address corner later on. I like this team. I like the head coach. I like the GM. It seems like they're all together on this. And I like the players they drafted. Any other thoughts on the Jets?
I like, as we mentioned before, there's a clear vision to help Zach Wilson. We finally have a head coach and a GM that are on the same page. Because I remember one of the big issues, people were talking about Sam Darnold going forward, but Joe Douglas did not draft Sam Darnold, so he obviously wasn't his guy. Joe Douglas has his guy now.
And not only that, first off, you reset the rookie contract, which is a big thing, right? Like getting a guy, that price component to the QB contract on the rookie wage scale is huge. You were paying him $10 million while people would be paying a top 10 quarterback $40 million.
Yeah.
Even if he's just an average quarterback, you are getting a huge discount. Right there, that is the entire reason why they probably said, we'll be okay without Sam Darnold, and we'll go with Zach Wilson. They also got a second-round pick for Sam Darnold, which I thought was B-naners, and some tater tots on the side. He's now with Carolina. They look like they're kind of trying to build around him at least for the next year or two and see what they can get out of him and see if he could be their star quarterback. And I just like what they've been doing. They have assets going into the future, coming from trades from other players. They're talking about extending Marcus May, and I think that's a big deal if they get that done, because he's been so versatile, so useful for them.
Great in coverage.
Yes. They even played him at corner at some point, so maybe they're looking at that aspect of him too. Overall, I think the Jets are trending up. It's going to maybe be about 2 years before they're like in the playoffs, but I think everything that they got going for them, it's good. I like it. They're going in the right direction. Feel good. Any final thoughts?
No, and one more thing. Another thing I love about their vision. As an Ole Miss fan, I've been begging them to take some Ole Miss players, and they got the two best players from Ole Miss's offense last year. We talked about Elijah Moore, but we got Kenny Yeboah, who I think he put up something ridiculous, like 200 yards against Alabama last year, and we're finally and all three New York teams have an Ole Miss tight end now, and I'm expecting big things from Kenny Yeboah. I could definitely see him being our starting tight end.
Awesome. Wait, he's going to be beating at Herndon?
Well, Herndon's been like hurt, but you trust me, he's
And Wesco?
yes.
Or is Wesco now a fullback on this team?
I don't even know, but
Because like they don't have a fullback, and that's typically been a thing of the Shanahan offenses.
Sure.
So maybe they're looking at Trevon Wesco as a fullback.
yeah.
If you want, you can follow the podcast and the show at Draftvice on Twitter, at Draftvice_football on Instagram. You can follow me at BROJO. Death is in the end of life. Punch a delicious drink, you drink in the summer. Follow, subscribe, check out all the other videos. I did a 1-minute video on the Jets a week ago. You can go follow that and find that. I've been doing videos on the 1-minute videos on all different teams. Everyone's coming out of every day, sometimes 2 or 3 a day. We got multiple interviews and multiple guests and sexy people like Harry being on here. And if you want, you could follow Harry.
Yes, follow me at Harry Van Ness on Instagram.com. And please go on scottsproteinballs.com to get some of those delicious Scott's protein balls in your mouth with an explosion.
Not a sponsor of Draftvice, but just a sponsor of Harry's Soul.
Yes. Explosion of protein in each ball.
And thanks again for coming on. And it looks like the Jets are going in the right direction finally.
Yes.
So, good on them. Good on you as a Jets fan. And that's it.
Expecting 6 wins this year.
Listen, even if it is 6 wins, it's 6 wins on a building team.
Yes.
And they'll still have a relatively high pick, which means they could keep building on this team that I think in the next 2 to 3 years will be in the playoffs.
Yes.
So good on them, good on you, good on the Jets, and have a good week.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
About the past and about the future.